are Java, Springboot, MySQL, JUnit, and Git.
Okay, so how much experience do you have total in technical?
So I've worked in TCS as a full-time employee for about 1 year, 4 months, and that was as Java developer. And the remaining 4 months, I have worked as an intern. So total, I have worked for 1 year, 8 months.
So currently you are working.
Correct.
Okay, fine. So any reason of living in very short span of time?
No, actually, I'm looking for better opportunities, like where I could go grow my skill set.
Hmm.
Yeah, the current project that I am in is shifting to support. So that is why.
Okay, fine. Okay, so let's summarize the technology stacks. Are you do you have experience in Struts and JSF?
No, I don't have experience in that.
So Strut, JSF, Spring Boot you have?
Yes, Spring Boot I have.
Spring?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, little bit of Spring and Core Java definitely you have.
Yeah. Core Java, like I've done certification from Oracle.
Okay, Oracle. So 8 version or which version?
8 version. Like I have done for associate, Oracle certified Java associate version 8, and I'm in the process of getting the professional certificate as well.
Hmm. Fine. So you know what are servlets?
Yeah, like I haven't worked on them, but the basic, like I have knowledge.
Okay, what is servlet then? What
Yeah.
what is the
So
definition of servlet?
in case of Java, it's basically like an entity that handles all the requests. Like for example, we have dispatcher servlet. So in case of Spring Boot, what happens is like all the requests, all the HTTP requests are like redirected by that dispatcher servlet to our REST controller. So that is what servlet does. It is an entity which interacts with the web server and handles all the requests.
Hmm. Okay, you know what is generic servlet and HTTP servlet?
Um, HTTP servlet is one which we create by extending the if we extend the HTTP servlet class, and it has like methods like do get, do post, in which we take an HTTP response and HTTP request object. These are generically for these are specifically basically for HTTP requests. And regarding like generic, it's I haven't worked on that.
Okay, fine. Okay, so in Java, what is the use of callable interface?
Uh, yeah, so what happens is like whenever we execute a thread, like whenever we start a thread, its run method does not return anything. Its return type is basically void. So by using callable, first thing is what we can do is like we can return a generic object. Like it has the concept of generics implied, meaning we can return any value from that run method, basically call method.
Hmm.
And apart from that, like our original run method of thread class does not does not throw any exception. So that point is also added to the call method in the callable interface, that it can throw an exception.
Hmm.
And also it is useful for working with thread pools, executive service and thread pools.
Hmm. Okay, fine. Okay, what is the real use of polymorphism? And can you give any practical example in from your project or your knowledge?
Practical use is basically like polymorphism is implemented by method overloading and method overriding, right? So
Mm,
method overriding is like generic, is like mostly used because what we do in like I work in payments transformation. So what we do, we create a structure of the message, like the parent message format, and then that has different versions. Like for example, for pain, we have different versions: version one, version two. All these versions, they implement the pain interface, and we have defined that these methods should be there like in our pain message. So it gets like we have that we have to override that methods in those version classes. So that becomes like it, we have to specify that these methods have to be overridden. So at runtime we can use the interface, like the pain interface, and reference it. Like we don't have to specifically call that, on the child class, the
mhm,
implementing class. So that is like use case of that. And like generically it's a method overloading and a method overriding is that we can for method overriding, whenever there's inheritance relationship, my base class can provide an extra implementation like over the super class. Like super class can do something, my base class can override that method, it can call that method, and it can also provide its own implementation. So that
mm,
is the case of overriding. And for overloading, what we can do is like multiple, like different we can have different set of parameters. Like in case of object class only, we have that wait method, we have that notify method.
mhm.
So wait method, it has like different parameters. Like one is we specify time, and then in the next wait method we also specify the time and the time out, like how much duration it should wait. So in sleep also, like in sleep class also, we have the time and the time out. So that is how we can, right? And in like uh,
Mhm.
ha, in collections also, we have many like method overriding and method overloading. We have constructor overloading as well. Like in case of array list, we can create an empty array list, or we can specify like this is the initial default capacity that I want. So these are
Mhm.
use cases. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So suppose there is a employee class, okay,
Mhm.
and that is in some third party library wherein that you cannot modify the employee class, okay,
Mhm.
and you have imported that class in your application, and you have created a multiple objects, okay, and the employee class has employee name and age. So you have created 10 objects, okay,
Mhm.
and now you want to sort, okay, by their name and age. So what technique you will?
Oh yeah, I'll use comparator for that because like comparable won't be applicable here. So I'll use a collections dot sort. Like I'll add those objects into a collection, say array list, and then I'll use collections dot sort, and I can pass a lambda expression in that. And in that I'll like provide the logic like which I want to use. Basically, I'm using the comparator over comparable.
Okay, fine. So in the serialization,
Mm-hmm.
okay, suppose we don't want to serialize some of the properties. So what we can do?
We can apply transient keyword to that. It basically what happens when we apply a transient to a variable is that it won't be like it is stored as null. Like if I'm referring to an object, it will store the default value of an object which is null and object type. And if I'm using some variable, say int, it will store the default value which is zero. And if I don't want to save it at all, I can make it a static. Like I can make that variable as static if it is possible. So what happens is static variables are skipped during serialization. So
Okay.
these are the two options.
And what is serial version UID?
Serial version UID.
Yes,
Mm,
which we write at the top of the now.
yeah, yeah. I forgot. I don't remember. Sorry.
Mhm. Okay, fine. So what is the use of volatile keyboard?
Okay. What happens is when we have when we have a thread, and like whenever we create a thread, when it start method is invoked, it is reserved a call, like it is given a call stack, and it also makes a copy of all the variables that it will use in its call stack. That's a local copy, and it is kept in its cache. So when there are two threads with the same set of variables, like I have two variables, it may happen that like thread one is affecting one variable, but it is not reflecting to my main like CPU memory. So by using volatile, the visibility problem, this is called a visibility problem, and this is solved. Like what happens is any changes that is made to a variable which is marked volatile in any thread's cache, it is reflected back in the CPU memory as well.
And what is consumer interface?
Okay, consumer interface is a functional interface which has a method except. So what it does is like functional interface basically it is an interface with only one method, which is like except. What it does, it is that it takes a value and it consumes it. So like for example would be like of consumer would be for each, like we use for each and then we pass a consumer, like we could take we could create our own consumer interface as well.
Okay, that is fine. So you know what is variable arguments, the three dots which we use?
Yeah, variable arguments, like it can also only be used when we are using a method like method signature, and it specifically like, it basically signifies that I can have 0 or more or like any number of arguments passed. So that like it internally implements an array. Yeah.
So in overriding, there is a rule for exception for parent child. So you know what that rule?
Yeah. So if my first rule for exception is if my parent is not declaring any exception or whatsoever. For runtime exceptions, I can declare any exceptions in my base class. Okay. And for checked exceptions, what the thing is, like if my parent class is declaring a checked exception, I can either choose to ignore that, or I can declare that exception like throws, or I can declare the subclass of that exception.
Okay,
So
fine.
that is the rule. Yeah.
And how the concurrent hash maps works internally?
Okay, concurrent hash map.
Regarding the, I'm
Yeah,
looking for the bucketing concepts and the locking mechanisms.
I don't have that much like knowledge about concurrent hash maps. All I know, like that it locks a certain amount of like instead of like in case of hash table, it used to like lock the entire object, but in case of concurrent hash map, it locks only a certain number of uh, elements.
Right. So when we should go for use enum.
Okay, enum we can use when we have like we want to declare certain constants, like in Springboot, what the like use case was that when we define roles, right, we can use like an enum to define the role, like if it is an admin or it is a user role. So we can define that using enums. Enums are basically like it has a class like structure, but we can use it to declare our own constants.
Okay, fine. Okay, so in Springboot, how much experience you have? Have you ever used or have theoretical knowledge?
No. I have like used in like for the last 3 or 4 months. I have been in the project. Like I have hands-on on it, and also like I was developing some personal projects. So I have knowledge like on that.
Okay, that is fine. So in Springboot, how we can change the default server from Tomcat to Jetty?
One way is like we can change the dependency. Like in Spring Boot, we can actually go like start.spring.io and we can get the Jetty server. Like if you want to use, like we'll use the Spring Boot starter Jetty, and we can in the POM XML we'll exclude, like we'll use the exclude filter to exclude Tomcat.
Okay. And how we can read the property file value?
Property file value. Okay, so we can like if I have a variable, so I'll just put a @value annotation, and within that, within quotes, I'll use curly braces and I'll put in the name that I have specified. Like in properties we use key value pairs, so we'll put the name of the key.
What is the use of dev tools?
Okay, dev tools. Yeah, what happens is like whenever we are making changes to our Spring Boot application, every time we have to run the server manually. Like we have to start and stop the server. So dev tools, what it does is like once, like after adding the dependency, we have to run it once, and then whenever we do any changes to our application and we save it, it automatically builds. But the catch here is that any changes to pom.xml won't be reflected. Like everything, like any file changes will be reflected, but pom.xml is not reflected.
Okay, fine. Suppose there is a there is a at the right configuration notation. Okay, so suppose we do not want to include any of the configuration on some condition, how we can do that? Otherwise, it will pick up all the configuration file of from the dependency. Remove any configuration file.
Okay, can you repeat the question once again?
Okay, so how we can restrict loading of some configuration files on some condition?
Like we use an annotation @conditional on missing bean. That's the annotation that I know of. So we'll use that.
Okay, right. Okay, now moving to next section, that is Spring. So, what is default scope of a Spring Bean?
Our default scope is singleton, and we can change it by using scope filter.
Fine. So, which dependency injection you will? Sorry. So, what are the types of auto wiring?
Okay, what are the types of auto wiring? We have auto wiring of objects, we have auto wiring of variables, and we have auto wiring of collections as well. And those are done using like dependency injections. So we can use constructor injection or setter injections for that.
Yes, constructor, setter. So which auto wiring is preferred for which property? And I mean, what you will prefer?
Like in my project, there was like a rule that we have to use setter injections. But like when I was developing my own projects, like I came to know that it's better to use constructor injection. And the way we can do is like we can use final keyword and then we can use the constructor injection, because in that way it becomes immutable.
What is the life cycle of Spring Bean?
Okay, life cycle. So first the bean is initialized, like it's created, then it's initialized. Then we can have certain methods to like perform certain actions. Like we can do that by extending certain interfaces, like disposable bean. No, sorry, that is for destroying. Just a second. Okay. Post construct, like we can there are first the bean is initialized, right? It's created and initialized. Then we have some methods that we can use. Those are basically post construct and pre destroy methods. And between those methods, like it is whatever we are doing application on the bean, that's done, and then the bean is destroyed. So basically the step is it's initialized, then method which is annotated with @post construct is called, and then whatever like changes, whatever we want to do, it is done like in our application classes. And then the if we have a post pre-destroy method, it will call, it's basically used to get rid of like the open resources that we had, and then the bean is destroyed.
Right.
We can also use like initializing bean and disposable bean interfaces, and it has like two methods which we can use like to give the implementation of what we want to do in between. So if we want to get like open a resource, we can do that in pre construct, like post construct methods, and in pre destroy we can close those resources.
Mhm. Okay. Can you write a program,
Mhm.
to print the duplicate characters of a string and the count?
Duplicate characters, yeah, sure. Like should I like share my screen and type?
Sure.
Mhm.
Yes, please.
Do you want me to like open some ID online or Eclipse?
Whatever you are comfortable.
Okay, sure.
That's
Um, Google Chrome. Just a second, huh? Sure. Okay, I'll have to add some preferences settings.
Mm,
Can you like if you can share the screen and give me the control, because actually the laptop is new, so it's not giving me the the permissions.
okay, okay, okay.
Like I can do, like I can tell you the logic. What I do is
Mm-hmm.
I'll I'll take the first character, like I'll traverse the string, right? So I'll take the first character and I'll keep on counting like the like from, if I start from I0, then I'll keep on going till the end of the string, and I'll count for that specific character. So that I'll have frequency, and I'll keep like frequency and the visited character, right? So like I'll have two separate arrays. So in one I'll keep the first character that I got, and the second I'll keep the frequency, right? So then again, like I'll have two loops for that, and that is how I can do. I'll keep on going forward, and I'll take a character at a particular index, and I'll traverse the whole string.
Mm-hmm.
The other way is like I'll like create a like array list of all the characters, and then I could sort it, and I can do it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fine. So, talking about this securing your web service or your application, what you can think of? What should be the best, or what are the options available?
Okay, so web security, first thing is like I'll use HTTPS instead of HTTP. So for that, I'll use SSL. I'll enable in my web application. And the second thing is that I'll use a Spring security filter, like Spring security basically. So I'll create my own if I like I want to. It's already enabled. So if I add it in my POM class, it will be enabled, right? So I'll use that, and I can also provide certain configurations by extending that web configurer web security configurer adapter class, and then provide the implementations in the methods, overridden methods. And third thing that I'll do is whenever I'm like working with passwords in that same class, I'll use a password encoder to encode the passwords whenever I'm saving the database.
Mm-hmm.
And a level up would be implementation of JWT, so like some token based authentication, so OAuth or JWT.
Okay, okay. Okay, wait.
Mhm.
Sorry. Uh, that's good. So, you know what is uh, OAuth authentication?
Yeah, like I have theoretical knowledge on that.
Yeah, theoretically only.
Mhm.
Basics only.
Yeah, so what happens is like there's a like there's three roles in this. So first we have the owner, like owner of a resource, and second is a web server where that resource has been hosted, and the third is the client that is requesting that resource. So whenever the firstly the client goes to the web server and asks for that resource, so the web server won't give it directly. It will come back to the owner and it will say that this is the server that's requesting, do you want me to proceed or not? So it will give the authorization request yes or no. So it will go ahead and it will go back, like it will basically send a request response to the client. Like if it is authorized, then it will give it a token, like that is called access token. So it will give it an access to no, it will give an authorization token, right? So after that, again, when the client is sending a request, it will send the authorization token, and next time the web server is sending a response, it will send an access token. So with that access token, the client can access the like resources. And this is like the token based like the token authentication can be done using JWT.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine. Any practical example you have seen?
Yeah, like whenever I log in via Google, right? So it is asked. So whenever I log in using password, there it is asked, suppose I'm logging to this first IPO website, right, using my Google. So whenever I click on sign in using Google, it will, that is what is happening, right? So Google is giving it the permission to access and all. Yeah.
Right. Okay, that is fine.